GF of 7 years cheated. We broke up. It's 5 months later. There is hope. In a nutshell, here's what happened. After 7 years of dating, they made the decision to tie the knot. She cheats, I catch her, and we decide to part ways. For a little period of time, I am completely out of my mind. It is the worst feeling of sorrow I have ever had in my life. There are no children in attendance. 4.5 months later, the situation is as follows. I was put on Lexapro and Buspirone around 2 weeks following my split with my boyfriend. I'm now weaning myself off of Lexapro, since that the majority of my depressive symptoms have reduced to a significant extent. Since then, I've been seeing a therapist who has been quite beneficial in helping me to think more discreetly and rationally about things. Not just about my ex, but also about other relationships and life issues. I've only talked to my ex-girlfriend once since we ended our relationship, and it was to inform her that I may be liable for some highway tolls. Nonetheless, at this time, I have no desire to communicate with her about the breakup or anything else that has happened. Recently, I've been seeing a number of various people, all of whom have been advised that I'm not searching for an exclusive relationship. When it comes to dating, it may be somewhat pricey, but it is also a lot of fun. Being alone with my thoughts is not something I love doing, therefore this has kept me engaged for a long period of time. Aside from that, I had no clue how great could be until recently. I believed it was a problem with me, but I'm certain that my ex was just being harassed. I'll confess that I long for the feeling of having my person, as it were. Just someone I can confide in and know will always be there for me when I need them. You're talking about a significant other, right? I believe I've highlighted a number of blind spots I'd previously overlooked and have begun really assessing the needs and expectations I'm looking for in a relationship after dating other people, thinking on my relationship with my ex, and working through both of these things with my psychotherapist. They were most definitely not being met by my former partner, and they aren't all being fulfilled by the people I've been seeing recently either. Despite the fact that it will be a long road ahead, I simply wanted to share an update to provide some ray of light for those of you who are going through it right now. It will get less difficult. You have nothing to be ashamed about. You are not the source of the problem. Don't stay with a cheater just for the sake of it. You are capable of so much more. And if nothing else, counseling may be a lifesaver when it comes to getting through this really difficult time. Story 2. Wife cheated because I was too emotional. Man-child. It's been 14 months since her case was filed and 5 months since it was finalized. I'm still in a lot of discomfort. A lot of people, including myself, are seeking for answers as to where and why things went wrong. In February 2020, I became fairly emotional for the first time in our relationship, and I think it was the first time she had ever seen me cry in front of others. It was about a neck injury I had sustained that may have been averted if I had received chirotherapy that I didn't even need. Because of this, I spent the last few months of my life wallowing in self-pity, regret, humiliation, and other bad feelings as I neared the finish of a rear-end collision claim, in which all I wanted to do was optimize my recovery and get as healthy as possible. As a consequence, my expectations were completely flipped upside down, and I was confronted with new agony and limitations that were much greater than those I had experienced as a result of the vehicle accident 2 years before. She started conversing with someone she met while working on a task for her employer less than a month after I began to sink into a sad state. The same time, she felt she had been let down by expectations. We were forced to relocate from our home for a full 7 months to allow for a total makeover according to her specifications, and COVID was on top of the situation. I went to work every day, but she didn't since her firm was in the food industry. I can't help but believe that it was my mental state that depleted any remaining desire for me at the time. As a consequence, my trauma has now been worsened, and I have decided to divorce my husband. I flip and flap, unsure whether I should be relieved that I uncovered her true character, or disappointed that she would not stay by my side through my first ever life crisis. Do you think I should take this as a lesson and promise myself that I would never get that emotional in front of my partner again? As a woman who is fully aware of the fact that women reflexively, or not, dry up when they witness a man weep, it is impossible for me to think that this was not the underlying cause, our ultimate separation. She informed me that we needed counseling about a week before she started speaking with this individual, and I expressed my willingness to participate, but she thought I was not in the proper mental state to deal with the challenges in our marriage. Personally, I was seeking assistance via personal counseling, self-help, and medicine, all of which were non-harmful, but I was having difficulty snapping out of it. The fact that she had been conversing with 3 men and calling me a man-child, among other things, didn't dawn on me until we returned to our home in June. She filed for divorce 3 months after we started counseling, which lasted 3 months in total before we ended it. After digging through her things, I came across a message in which she claimed to have a hidden folder and that if I saw what was within, we'd be signing papers. At the moment, the feeling of betrayal in my mind was too overwhelming to overcome. All in all, it was a depressing experience. We had a beautiful relationship for 11 years, and we were married for 6 years throughout that time. I loved her and cherish her much more now that she is gone. Attempting to view this as a blessing in disguise, I often assume that if I hadn't been harmed, it would not have resulted in my depression and her eventual infidelity. But that is not how things turned out in the end. A decade ago, we were just 3 months into our relationship when she physically cheated on me. I never imagined it would happen again. I'm now apprehensive of expressing myself emotionally in any future relationships. In many ways, I'm a shadow of the person I used to be. My life has altered considerably since I last wrote about it 2 years ago. Suicidal thoughts are rampant, and there is nothing left to live for. We didn't desire children and had a diverse variety of hobbies, so we didn't have any. Because they were all I had, I decided to keep the house and the 2 dogs. And my parents, even though I feel each of them has only 1 or 2 years left to live at this point. I'm now in therapy and have been on Zolft for the last 3 weeks. I'm still having trouble getting rid of my ruminative thoughts and negative perspective. Story 3. Wife cheated on me 6 months ago in our home with a friend of mine. I just found out. Because I just found out about it a few hours ago, and am now driving in my car pondering what to do next. Please excuse any spelling mistakes or illogicality. Thank you for your understanding. In addition to wanting to keep my mind occupied for the time being, I'm hoping to get some genuine recommendations from you via my blog. In any case, a few hours ago, I received a phone call from the wife of a dear friend, who was sobbing excessively and informing me that my wife and her husband had up during a party at my home 6 months before. She had snooped on her husband's phone and discovered text messages that dated back around 7 months, 1 month before the party, and continued all the way up to the night before. She apologized and then hung up after passing all of the messages to me. So I went back through the chats and discovered that the ones that took place previous to the adultery were highly flirty and seductive, despite the fact that they never directly mentioned having or up with anybody. Following the incident, the tone of his emails changed. He was pressuring them to leave us, me and his wife, and begin a relationship while she was apprehensive, but she never refused him or stopped contacting him. So I went to my wife and told her straight out that I had received a phone call from your BF's wife, and that I was fully aware of everything that had happened. She looked at me like I was a deer in the headlights, then explained that it was a mistake and that they were both intoxicated, that it was innocent flirtation that went too far, that she never wanted to hurt me, that she is so sorry, that she would do anything, and so on. Consequently, I just got into my car and drove away. I needed to get out of there since I was feeling suffocated in her presence. There is nothing I can think of to do. It's as if my life has suddenly burst and I'm in the midst of nowhere, unsure of which way to go. Any recommendations would be much appreciated.